Mark Russell and Sean Isaacs bring a refreshing new take to Marvel's first family as the Fantastic Four are formed in the wake of an outer space disaster. But can the group stick together long enough to combat a deadly force of destruction Reed Richards saw coming their way? Mark Russell, unlike Chip Zdarsky's recent Spider-Man life story book, goes in a slightly different direction with his version of the Fantastic Four's life story, where instead of inserting the group into key points of American and world history like Chip did with Spider-Man, he uses the first issue to put forth an interesting new premise for the team. What if they weren't really a team at all, or a family, and it was all kind of a facade for the betterment of mankind? The idea of the team not being a cohesive family like they usually are was really well done here, especially with Reed and Ben, who are sort of at the core of this problem, since Ben resents Reed for what he did to him and made him turn into the rock monster we know as the Thing. On top of that interesting dynamic, Russell actually makes Galactus a terrifying villain by turning him into a cosmic horror, almost eldritch being that just the mere glimpse of makes Reed go a little bit crazy and realize just how small humanity is in the grand scheme of things. It's something I'm looking forward to seeing explored more in the upcoming issues, as well as different takes on their villains as well. Sean Isaacs' lovely looking artwork fit the aesthetic of the book really well, in that it was an issue that takes place in the 60s, but he makes it look timeless, which is fitting given how timeless the Fantastic Four are. I enjoyed Sean's action pages a lot, despite there not really being all that too many of them, as well as his Galactus redesign, which isn't so much a redesign in that it's just making him look extremely threatening and actually terrifying for once. Fantastic Four Life Story Issue 1 was a really awesome, refreshing take on Marvel's first family, changing things up from previous life story installments to tell a personal story of a shattered family and how heroism brings them together. I'm going to give this issue a 9.5 out of 10. Fantastic Four Life Story Issue 1 finds JFK talking to Dr. Reed Richards, saying they are desperate to get into the space race and have already tried 3 times, but failed each one, resulting in the deaths of some astronauts. JFK says that Reed needed to build him a spacecraft 3 months ago, handing him a paper that says the Soviets have already gotten into space. He knows that they must respond, otherwise the world will think they have fallen behind, and they have bet on the wrong horse. Reed agrees to help, knowing he was desperate as well, since he would never have another chance to make his designs. Kennedy says that Dr. Ricardo Jones will give him everything he needs, much to Jones's shock, since he was given command of Cassandra 4 and Richards' designs don't even look like rockets. Kennedy says they know what failure looks like, and if they are going to fail again, it should be in a new way. Reed thinks that he's right, but JFK says Reed is a visionary who will take them to the stars, and Jones is being put on ground control, wanting to talk to Reed about his new antimatter fuel that he made. Reed gets to work on his ship, telling the designers that it's not a rocket, it's a spaceship, and it uses antimatter so the craft doesn't need to be aerodynamic. He's soon told there's a phone call waiting for him, learning that it's from Susan, who tells her nagging brother Johnny to check the lab fridge if he's hungry, but Johnny won't dare go near it. Reed tells Sue that everything is fine, but no one knows the design better than her, and if there was any justice in the world, she would be the one on this flight. Ricardo comes by wanting to talk to the fuel, and later, Reed meets Sue, telling her the project was cancelled thanks to the antimatter fuel, since Ricardo says they don't have the tech to test it, so they need to cancel it until they can, and he thinks they won't have the tech until 1982. Reed knows that it's over and the ship is being dismantled tomorrow, but Sue tells him the operative word there is tomorrow, but Reed knows that it's not that simple, since if they were to pilot the craft, they'd need an actual pilot and a crew. Sue says that she can do it, as Johnny asks if he can come along as well. Reed angrily says the ice cream eating boy cannot, asking how old he is, but Johnny says he's old enough to call NASA if they don't let him come. Later on, the group discuss getting a good pilot, and luckily, Johnny knows a guy. At a local bar, Ben Grimm drowns his sorrows away, having just lost his job, telling his bartender friend Tony that it was thanks to him mailing his mouthy boss to Singapore in a crate. He knows that it couldn't be at a worse time since he's now engaged to marry his sweetheart Sally, and he wanted to take her on a honeymoon somewhere classy, but now without a job, he can't do that. Johnny and the Yellows arrive and get him, and later, the group head to the base, where Reed smooth talks his way through the guard at the front gate, saying they're there just to grab their personal belongings. In the lab, Reed hands out flight suits, hoping Ben can fly without instruments. Ben says he can fly anything without wings if Reed's plane doesn't explode on them. With the team all suited up, they head to the ship Sue designed, going through their pre-flight checks, but Reed says they never did a trial launch, worrying Sue, who hopes it'll be alright. Reed says all Ben needs to do is press the abort button if anything goes wrong, as Ben activates the ship, blasting off into the night sky. In moments, the team's in space, making them the first Americans to do that. Johnny doesn't know how he can go back to school after this, as Reed notices the antimatter index is fluctuating, meaning something is wrong. Reed knows that they ran thousands of simulations, and this never happened in the lab, since you can't simulate cosmic rays in the lab. The ship is bombarded by the rays, mixing with the antimatter fuel and causing the ship to disappear in a bright light. The team hold on as the ship is rocketed through space, and Johnny suddenly bursts into flame and Sue becomes transparent. Reed calls for Ben to abort as the man becomes a giant rock-like being. Reed reaches across for the button, only to find his arm stretching beyond normal parameters to smash the button on the other side of Ben. The ship's parachutes deploy as it falls into Earth's orbit, and Reed cannot remember what happened next, only knowing that they returned to their illusion of Earth and to the safety of it. He does remember not long before blacking out, he saw something, the illusion of death in the face of their destructor. Later at the Walter Reed Hospital, Reed is reunited with Sue as Johnny again bursts into flames, calling for help. Reed knows that there is always a price for survival, and now they cannot go back to normal lives because there will never be any normal to begin with. Reed asks where Ben is, finding the rock-covered Ben is in another room. The man asks what kind of thing he has become, as Reed learns Ben may never take on a human form ever again. Ben sadly knows that no one could love a bag of gravel like the one he has become, attacking Reed and blaming him for what happened to him. One of the soldiers gets them to stop, as on the TV, JFK announces an American crew went into space, calling them the Fantastic Four who gave humanity a chance to explore the unknown. The group is told a motorcade is waiting for them, and Ben reluctantly heads to it, saying they all ruined his life and he's not doing this for Reed, telling the man he's no priest, so he doesn't want to hear any confessions or anything from the man since he's not giving absolution. The Fantastic Four are paraded out on a ticker tape parade, as Reed knows that they might not be a four, but they need to do what they must when others need them more than they need themselves. Sometime later, the Fantastic Four fight Mole Men, as Reed knows they were never meant to be together, and being the first Americans in space wasn't the only reason they called themselves heroes, and it wasn't the only reason they needed to. Ben takes down Mole Man, and Reed again tries to talk with him, but Ben doesn't care or listen, leaving the area. The team's lives go on, and soon Reed and Sue are married. They attend JFK's funeral and even met the Beatles. Reed says that they became overnight sensations in an age where the sun never set, as Sue marches with others to ensure civil rights for all. Reed meanwhile finds his mind wandering back to 1961 and the brief glimpse of the end he received. In 1964, Reed meets with LBJ and Ricardo Jones again to discuss the thing Reed keeps going on about. Reed doesn't know what it is, only knowing that it's malevolent, and if it comes to Earth, they aren't ready since the world is consumed with its own conflicts. Ricardo thinks this is just part of some psychosis from the cosmic rays, and LBJ knows Reed could be right, but now he knows things in Vietnam are getting much worse and there's war on the streets of America, so his attention needs to be there. But the door is open for Reed, wanting him to call him next time he sees the space demon. Reed returns to Sue, telling him his meeting with the president was useless, having called what he saw a space demon, which is a good description. Sue thinks the president has a point about him being crazy as she kisses her husband. Reed knows that they all have their own lives and someone to share it with, since that and their love makes the pressure and demands of being heroes bearable, but he doesn't know what he would do without it, as Ben watches his former fiancée Sally grieve for him. In 1967, Reed and Ricardo are interviewed on TV, talking about other life that exists in the galaxy, but wonder why they haven't seen any of the millions of possible alien civilizations yet. Jones thinks that if a race can explore the stars, then they could easily destroy themselves, or they might even be watchers and only be observing them from afar. Reed thinks about what he saw in space again, knowing that it's a self-terminating question since it's too late and the only civilizations left are those lucky enough not to know. The host takes the show into an ad break, as later, Reed and the others build a new machine capable of recreating the conditions of their first spaceflight, so Reed can see what he saw in space again. Sue powers it up, with Reed hoping they got city approval for the power they were about to draw, but Johnny didn't do his job, so the power in the city goes out, as Sue says that it's not too late to stop this. Reed knows it it is, and he has to know he's right. He asks where Ben is, as back at the runway bar, Ben is drowning his sorrows away again. Tony asks if Ben still loves Sally, why doesn't he go and say anything to her? The being knows that even if she said yes to him, he couldn't put Sally through all of what he has become. Soon Ricardo comes by to see him, offering Ben an answer to his prayers. He shows Ben a device that will allow him to become Ben Grimm again, while he gets to take Ben's affliction. Later on, the now rock-covered Ricardo joins the Fantastic Four, welcomed as Ben by Reed, who can't wait to show the world what he saw. Ben is happy to help, making Reed wonder if he's feeling okay as the team get ready to head out. The real Ben meanwhile picks up some flowers from the florist and gets ready to go and see Sally again as Sue boots up the subspace chamber. Reed asks if Ben will wait outside for him, but Jones says that he wouldn't miss the chance to commit the perfect murder. The Thing reveals that he is not Ben but Ricardo Jones, and Reed took everything from him all so he could tell a lie about a space demon. Both Jones and Reed fall through the cosmic void that opens up in the experimental lab, and both witness Galactus, the destroyer of worlds, who says that he is coming for the terror in their souls. Ricardo realizes that he was so very wrong about it all and about Reed, as Sue and Johnny meanwhile combat the fires breaking out all over the lab. Ricardo pulls Reed back towards the portal opening, telling the hero that he's the only one who knows what this thing is, so he needs to survive this. Ricardo shoves Reed back into the lab as the portal takes him. The portal closes and Reed emerges from the lab, saying Galactus is coming for them, as he knows that the being didn't know of Earth before, but he does now, and it's all because of him. The real Ben meanwhile readies to see Sally one more time, knowing that if love ain't worth a little courage, then what is? Suddenly he begins changing back into his rocky exterior, causing him to leave the home defeated. In 1969, Ben arrives at the Richards' house, hearing that Reed and Sue had a baby. The family welcome him in and introduce Ben to young Franklin, as Johnny calls them all to come watch the TV as Neil Armstrong takes his first steps onto the moon's surface, as Reed knows that they have all made mistakes and failures in life, wondering if there is a time to fix them, but maybe that's why they are there, to grow, and it's their turn to take care and be the antidote to an apathetic universe. Apathetic